Hello, I'm Cathy and I'm here with a very special guest, my dad Jimmy.
Good evening, folks.
In the flesh. So this is the podcast where my husband Dave and I walk to and from the movies, but my dad has been a guest on this podcast before over the phone 3 times. He's our historical correspondent and he dials in to speak. In the past we've spoken about Dunkirk, we spoke about Winston Churchill, and we spoke about the sexed up pantomime that was The Favourite. But Dad is here in England, and after kindly babysitting for Dave and I last night, where we went to see Fighting with my family and drank too much and now have hangovers, Dad's fresh as a daisy and we are going to see The Aftermath, which is a post-World War II movie. So naturally, Dad's coming and we're highly excited that he's here live in the flesh. Dad, you looking forward to this movie?
Yes, I saw it advertised yesterday. Had a look at the trailer. And it's immediately after the Second World War in the British zone, I think it was called, in Germany. And it's an intriguing historical context.
Yeah, and there's a good cast. So I don't think you said, Dad, you didn't really know any of the actors. So Keira Knightley plays the leading female, and
she's well known.
She's well known, and then we've got Alexander Skarsgård and Jason Clarke, both of who are quite big actors. And I think there's some sort of love triangle. So I think I'll probably watch it from the perspective of the love triangle, and you can tell us how accurate or how good it is at depicting the history. And I mean, it should be really interesting anyway. You know, things set around World War II tend to be very good fodder for movies, albeit there's been a lot of movies about World War II stuff, so it'll be interesting to see if they actually tackle anything fresh.
But that said, while there's many films about World War II, there isn't, at least to my knowledge, too many films about the aftermath of World War II, especially in Germany when physically the country was destroyed, not to speak of the other horrors that had been put through. Yeah,
true. So it should be good, hopefully.
Yeah. And from my point of view, especially in the lives of what would be just ordinary people.
Yeah. I'd be interesting. We don't know. I haven't even seen the trailer. I know you have. I'm presuming they play English people living in Hamburg, but I could be wrong.
We shall see. I won't spoil it on you.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love going to movies where I haven't even seen the trailer. I have seen a few bad reviews, though. When I quickly Googled it to get the timing, I saw some low numbers in Rotten Tomatoes. But of course, we always make up our own minds here in the cinema. So we'll be back soon. Dad's going to get beer in the cinema. He's very excited.
That's the plan.
I'm not having any alcohol.
Looking forward to getting a beer now in the Light. I think it's the Light Cinema.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dad's going to have beer and I'm going to have water for my sins. Okay, bye.
This house is being requisitioned by the British government.
Es ist jetzt Ihr Haus. Aber wir haben uns.
Herr Lewis.
Colonel Morgan, please come inside.
This is my wife.
My daughter and I will stay out of your way until we move to the camp.
What if we let them stay on?
You mean live with them?
There may not be an outward show of hatred, but it's there below the surface.
During the war, did you ever hope for a German victory? Did the bombing affect the health of you and your family?
It affected the health of my wife. She died in the firestorm.
I'm so sorry.
Right, we are out of the aftermath. It's really windy.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. So we'll do quick thoughts on the movie, and then we'll get to spoiler street. So, Dad, what did you think of that movie?
I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah?
I wouldn't have thought it a really great film, but I thought it was a good film and I enjoyed it very much.
And what about the setting?
Very interesting. I thought it was... I thought the settings were very good. Between the... where were we again? What set were we in Hamburg? Yeah, but between the destroyed Hamburg and then contrasted with the palatial surroundings in the countryside and such like, and wealth and extreme deprivation side by side. No, I thought that was well done.
And I thought it was... I thought the setting was really, really good, and particularly kind of the first scenes we see of bombed out Hamburg, and somebody says Hamburg was bombed more in one weekend than London was over the whole Blitz, which I never knew. So I found that really fascinating, and I think all 3 actors are brilliant. I think I really admire them all as actors, and I think they're all really great. And like Keira Knightley. It's probably one of the best performances I've seen from her, and like Jason Clarke is incredible, scene stealer as her husband, and then Alexander Skarsgård, as always, plays someone who's very attractive and does that very well, and he's a really good actor. And it's in a really interesting, time. It's post-war. There's like a love affair going on. They're dealing a lot with grief. So all of those elements should add up to a really exciting movie. But I found it like quite dreary. Overall, I was definitely thinking this is despite the setting being brilliant and the acting being brilliant, a bit tedious. And
yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think they might have overplayed it a bit. But on the point you make there about the damage done to Hamburg, one of the things that I really like in a film when it tries to properly contextualise things, like to digress for a minute, often when they talk, you see an American film about Vietnam, for instance, you could be forgiven for thinking there was more Americans killed in Vietnam than Vietnamese, which would be completely and utterly wrong. And that pity sentence they had there about the damage done to Hamburg in one weekend being equivalent to what happened to London in the whole war was very well put and very well made. It
was really striking and right at the top of the movie, so that set the scene for the whole movie then.
Yeah, see, and I think many people, because like in England and elsewhere, you've heard a lot about the Blitz, and the Blitz spirit and the Blitz this and the Blitz that. Now, not to minimise the Blitz, which was very traumatic, but it's as nothing compared with how other cities suffered. And that, I think, would often have been lost and severely neglected. So I like that.
Yeah, and because we always, predominantly movies and TV shows we watch are from the US and the UK, so the Allies. Yeah. So it was really interesting to see the other side.
But even if it's from the US down the UK, like sometimes it incenses me the way they're not contextualised.
Yeah.
It can be a film based about somebody in the UK or in the US, but where it's not put in the context of what has happened to other people or what has happened in the wider context can be very misleading.
Yeah.
So that I really liked.
And I enjoyed, I think we should probably get to spoiler street on this one because I don't want to spoil any specific plot things, but overall, one thing I really liked was the use of a piano and the use of the piano to tell two different family stories and kind of bring them together, I thought was lovely. And then there's a bit of an upstairs downstairs, well, the reverse on the upstairs downstairs thing, and the English people are actually living downstairs in this German's house and the Germans are kind of living up in the attic. But it got a bit silly because I think so the idea was the English came in and took over the house and they kindly let the Germans live in the attic of their own home, but they were supposed to be kept very separate. But I think in every scene they bumped into each other, and I just thought it was really heavy-handed. Like, one of them couldn't walk down a corridor without bumping into the other, and it was all, a bit ridiculous. And
well, at the same time, you could say that was, they were dramatising a situation.
I know, but like
and dramatising a situation just to heighten awareness of it.
But to me, it would have been more dramatic if it wasn't in every scene, if there was a bit of a build-up to it.
One point I'd like to make about the music, and I did a little bit of research for this live interview that I'm doing here today, which is that after the Second World War, there was a twinning between Hamburg and Bristol. The first twinning between a German and an English city after the Second World War. And from Bristol to this devastated city of Hamburg, what they sent shoes. And from Hamburg back towards Bristol, they had no money to send or shoes or anything else, so what they sent was musicians.
Oh wow!
And I see that the music theme, just as you mentioned there, was mentioned in the film, and music was used as a way to kind of to bridge people or to link people, which I think is just wonderful.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah. Another point I'd like to make about the bridging people, like it's so easy to spread hate and division, but the things that bring people together and the humanitarian concerns that are, it was nice to see that again, that brought people together, because whether you're German or whether you're English or Irish, anywhere else, like common humanitarian concerns about love and family are always the same.
Yeah.
They're always the same. And when that gets forgotten with some kind of souped-up nationalism or the extreme nationalism, I think it's a terrible loss.
Yeah, and this movie was definitely hammering home the point that there's no winners in war, and grief touched everyone in the war, and they were able to bond over that. But now I think also I thought it was very good though about the way it showed the way propaganda catches people, particularly young. Yeah.
Like the daughter was souped up with propaganda. The boyfriend she was with probably only a teenager and soaked up with propaganda, that he had just, so those kids were about 15.
Yeah.
So, from so much of their lives, the Nazi propaganda would have been poured into them, and what would you expect to come out of them at the other end? It's nearly inevitable. So, and your man, the actor, or the character he played, he understood that. The British colonel, he understood that.
Yeah.
And he brought that kind of mature humanitarian view to bear, which I liked.
Yeah, I really
but on the
liked it.
film itself, though, I think they overplayed the plot a bit. They could have kind of sharpened it up a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to think, what's wrong with this? There's so many parts that I'm enjoying, but the sum of the parts isn't working for me. And that's when I usually fall back and think it's probably the direction, but I don't know enough about film, maybe, to say that definitively. But there was something lackluster in it, and I felt like it was the direction and maybe some of the writing. But we're on to spoiler street now because we don't want to spoil anything for this movie, for anyone who hasn't seen it, and who cares for the ending. So personally, what I was most touched in the film about, and what I found really devastating, was the stuff about Keira Knightley and Jason Clarke's son dying. I was devastated by that stuff, and I thought both actors handled it superbly, and I thought it was so sad how they, the effect of losing a child on a marriage and what that does to a couple. And I just thought that was all handled really well, and that I thought that was actually ended up being the best part of the movie for me, even though it was brewing away and it didn't really come to a head until right at the end, which I think is right, because if this couple has basically not spoken about the death of their son in 4 years, it would take a whole movie for them to finally talk about it.
Well, it is interesting because in the context of war, where there's so many casualties, still one child in one family, it's a child in a family, which is an absolutely unique loss for each and every family.
What about when the young Irish guy showed up? I was like, dead. He's going to be dead. Yeah. He's spoken now in a scene, and within 10 minutes he was dead. I just knew it.
I have been critical of some of the other films that I was on in this review here, and I actually thought fair dues to them. They didn't just stick to the English accents in the British Army.
Yeah. True,
which was another twist. It annoyed me. It annoyed me. And indeed, a word for the Scots too. They got no Scottish accents either.
Well, they had a Scottish accent in this one.
No, but I mean in the other ones.
Oh, in Dunkirk.
Yes, in this one, ironically, they must have been listening to me. We had an Irishman and a Scotsman in this one. You see, so, but again, that reflects kind of a touch of realism about what made up the army.
Yeah.
It isn't playing into kind of a narrow nostalgic view of who was in the army. It's more realistic.
Yeah.
So many aspects of it were very realistic, I think.
Yeah.
But I think I would agree with you about the plot. Just they could have sharpened it.
Yeah. And what are the plot points? Oh yeah, I wanted her to end up with Alexander Skarsgård.
That was the German.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I would have been rooting for the husband, and I was suspected that's where it's going to end up, actually.
I thought.
So
that
take a bow, Jimmy. I got it. Yeah.
Well, I thought was a really kind of. I thought what the scene where the husband and wife, and she says, "But our marriage ended years ago," and he said, "I know." Basically, this is just kind of the catalyst to finish it off. And then they had that moment where they truly bonded they truly spoke about the loss of their son, and then she left him the son's jumper, which was like devastating.
Or could you say another thing that another way? I know that's what was said in the film, but you could put it another way, which is that just with the death of the child, things froze.
Yeah.
Things in the way, like say in a body, when somebody has an injury, your body freezes.
Yeah.
It's a natural reaction to a trauma.
Yeah.
And then that must run its course.
But the husband left her. He didn't even stay after the funeral. That's why I couldn't forgive him. But in the end, she's about to get on the train with Alexander Skarsgård, and she doesn't. And he said, "But you wanted a new beginning," and she said, "Yes, I do." And then she appears to kind of magically get back to the house right before the husband leaves.
Yeah, but the point, I think the point we made, it was a new beginning.
Well, yeah, because they were going to move back to London together.
Yeah, but in a very much in a different context.
Yeah, no, it was. I just wanted her to end up with Alexander Skarsgård.
Oh, did you? Yeah. And also the new beginning concept, it applies like to the countries as well, like a new beginning for Germany, a new beginning for England, etc.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, and look, I was crying at the end. So, and yeah,
why? Because that's because you got the wrong man. Is that why?
No, because of the son. I thought that stuff was so sad with the son. So, but yeah, so anyway, I enjoyed it, but wasn't quite, it helped. I had a hangover. It was a nice slow movie. I ate loads of popcorn. One thing I hadn't realised.
An awful lot of popcorn.
So Dad, we haven't been to the cinema together in a long, long time. The last thing I remember us going to the cinema together to see was the third Harry Potter movie, which I made you come and see with me.
That was some time ago,
It was
alright?
a long time ago. And I hadn't realised who I'd inherited my addiction to popcorn from. But I realise now when somebody thought that it was appropriate to eat half my popcorn. So I'm not used to sharing popcorn in the cinema.
I'm very sorry about
Wasn't
that.
overly happy about the situation. But I had invited you on the podcast, so I did share. But I certainly wasn't trying to take any of your beer, so let that be noted.
Okay.
But yeah, Dad, thank you so much for coming on, having you live.
My pleasure. And
Yeah.
I'd recommend the film.
You would recommend the film, good. I probably, knowing our listeners, would say it's grand. It's a nice movie. I certainly advise if you're going to watch it in the cinema, because like the scenes in Hamburg around, the bomb buildings and everything, I thought looked really good on a big screen. So yeah, and I think it's a brilliant cast, so it's a pleasure to see actors that good acting together. But it's more of a pleasure to have my dad over visiting, so thank you, Dad.
Oh, you're a charmer.
Now we'll have to find another movie for next time you come. And in the meantime, Dad, I know you don't have an iPhone. How do you listen to the cinema when you're listening to us? Or do you listen?
Maybe
to
I should refer this question to my lawyer.
Where can you listen if you're not if you don't have an iPhone?
I can't quite remember. I can get it on the phone, I think.
You get it
I can
on-
get it on the phone. I
I
get it on
think
my
you
phone.
go through the website, don't you?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I don't have an iPhone. No.
I think Dad's just kind of proved the point that he only listens to the episodes he's on when I send him the links to them.
That's not quite true. No, that's not quite true. That's not the full picture at all.
Well, if you don't have an iPhone,
I'm not here to be slandered.
if you don't have an iPhone, you can listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. If you do have an iPhone, we'd love if you went to Apple Podcasts and left us a review. We would greatly appreciate it. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at Cinemile. And I've taken a picture of me and Dad tonight to put on Instagram. Dad, are you excited?
Yes.
Do you have an Instagram account?
Let me see. The last time I checked, I hadn't.
So we won't be tagging him. Okay, we're going to go now though because it's really cold. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye everybody. Buenas noches.